Okay, thank you for watching here on TikTok and or YouTube and or wherever I end up placing this video. Original air date is Saturday, I want to say July the 26th, 2025. If you happen to be logging in live or if you happen to watch it on the original air date. Okay, and so today's segment, this is a discussion. I was going to put it in the title, but I just decided not to. I am reorganizing and tweaking a lot of things. Okay, so, but anyway, if you don't know who I am, depending on where you're watching me, I recommend you look at the homepage, the bio, all the other videos, especially YouTube. You'll get depth and layers about me over there, along with other content creators' content, but you'll get the kind of gist, okay? So, but if you're looking for something real streamlined and traditional, I can guarantee you I am not the influencer or content creator to watch. And guess what? I'm okay with that, and I don't think it's the end times because of it. And I do not have to hate you and seek to destroy you because of it. It's called maturity and balance. So now, this discussion is on a topic that is going on in a line with those who are social media content creators like myself, or entertainers or something like that. And the whole idea of what we're going to be talking about is, so you say you want to be rich and famous. So you say you want to be rich and famous. And not all of us, that's not all of our goals. But there are many where it's like they want to be doited upon. They want to be rich and famous. They want to have fans in the paparazzi and, all the acclaim that comes with all that, right? Left, up, down, all around, And in theory, it looks glamorous and all of that. So let's talk about, do you really want to be rich and famous? And this segment, we're going to talk about the stuff that's not so appealing about it. We're going to talk about everything that comes with it. Not just the stuff that is the reasons why some of us out there want it, but everything else. And I'm talking about from a small scale to a large scale and everything in between. Even if it's social media, famous social media. Here's the thing, this is my humble opinion. Y'all know how, those of us that are into entertainment and, we're watching the news, the Grammys, and, the do's and the don'ts, and, the Inquirer, and, just all these different things where, what's standard is we always get to see what famous people look like. There's always somebody that's going to attempt to reveal them and their vulnerability, not with, all of the right angles and the right lighting. And, when they've put on their fake, I just woke up in the morning look versus their real, I just woke up in the morning look. Okay. We get to see that because there are people who it's their jobs to go and get that information and deliver it to the public, because the public feels entitled to know stuff about famous people, right? They feel entitled to know, what they really look like. We feel entitled to knowing, because we may not mean it, but there's a level of objectification to these famous people, right? Because we see them in our favorite movie and we think they're attractive and, whatever the case, and we don't factor in the account that they bleed, like you and I, at least some of them. And, and, they have lives, they have children, they have families, they have weaknesses, failures, all the things that the rest of the population have. In some cases, maybe even more. Okay? And we don't care. So we get to look at, we ooh and ah, hot goss. We get to look at, see them without their makeup, and then we be talking. We were like, see, whoop, and, and, without their, hair extensions and, whatever the case may be, we get to hear about their affairs. They cheat, they cheat, and all of this. Now, these are people, by the way. They're people, for the most part, I like to believe. So, with that being said, are we able to think about how that might affect some of them? How that might affect their children? What about their reputation? What about, maybe it's going to cause a hindrance to their career, for all we know. Maybe, because we don't really know, about what these actions and how they're going to affect and influence the famous people and their children and their families and their careers. However, in the Western Hemisphere, in the United States of America, this is something that's allowed. It's allowed. There's no button to push, violation button. In rare cases, people are suing different people behind the scene for defamation of character or cease and desist stuff, but it's rare and it's circumstantial, and it depends on what the context is. But the stuff that I'm talking about is the stuff that it is never challenged. There's, if it is, it flops, and it's allowed. It's something that continues to go on. So let's think about this again. So we say we want to be rich and famous. These individuals get stalked by some of us. Their fans become obsessed. Somebody that's not all that well upstairs, near them starts to obsessively follow them around and take pictures and create shrines, in special places with their pictures, and what I'm saying? Like, it's not just in the movies. Like, this is a thing that happens to some of these people. They have people constantly trying to set them up because they have money, because they are rich and famous. Constantly after them. They don't know who's what and what's what, who's real in terms of friendships, because they're a walking dollar sign, a walking opportunity, a walking lottery ticket for the just right cricket person, to come for them. So when we look at it from that perspective of what these famous individuals, the downside of what they go through, asking the question again, so we say we want to be rich and famous. So we say we want to be known. They get people clowning them, clowning their looks, clowning their talent. How many of us have heard where, J-Lo, and I'm not saying I'm a fan or not a fan, or I agree or I don't agree. I'm simply referencing the reality of what's dealt with, what happens in the realm of being someone rich and famous, and well known, and not just the good stuff that causes people to sell their souls and sometimes even their relatives, to sacrifice relatives to do it. Y'all don't think that stuff affect them because they are famous? You don't think it's hurtful, or like they don't have their own insecurities? You don't think They might feel like, what if that influences their careers, and, people clowning their talent, and, poking holes in them, essentially, looking for their every weakness, flaw, and failure to expose to the world, right? Left, up, down, all around. We objectify famous people, even if we don't mean it sometimes. I think it's because of our connection to them. We see them on TV and the movies, and we connect these characters to them. And we drop it at that. And begin to feel entitled. The social media, all of it, everything and in between. So we say we want to be rich and famous. So here is, there's old school sayings that says, if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. Because often we can bring the heat but can't take the heat. And what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of us don't have a problem with gossiping and, doing humiliation rituals, attempting to humiliate someone else. A lot of us don't have a problem. We even find that to be entertainment or entertaining. But when the tables turn, and we ourselves is desiring to be rich and famous, and we're desiring to be what the individual is who's being currently targeted or publicly humiliated in some way for their fame or their establishment, whatever it is with the rich and famous and being, or whatever that connection is. Then when it's our turn, we suddenly feel some kind of way. Suddenly we're wanting to, see if we can get these people in trouble, and want to stalk them. We're wanting to put a gag order. We're looking for ways to get lawsuits. But we forgot in these moments that these are things that we participated in towards others. And felt fully in our full rights to do so. In our full rights to gossip around the town, to put up unflattering data or photos or videos. We felt entitled to do it. That's why the saying is, what's the other saying other than, if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen? But my grandmother, the woman who raised me, used to say, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I don't know why she said that, but she did. And it's kind of like touche, this double standard stuff. It's like, no, you can do it, I can do it. And when you flip it around, it's also like, if you want to do it, you should be able to take it. And I've said this in so many various different ways over the years, as somebody who has definitely received, the trash end of becoming, and I'm not even mega. It ain't even like that. But just the little ounce of attention that I've managed to co-create, not because that's what I was trying to do, it was a result of who I am and what I was doing. And I can say, just on that little bit of small scale there, I've definitely been on the receiving end of slander, character defamation, the brunt of people's jokes, the highlight of people's sermons. I've been called everything under the sun on various different people's platforms and churches. my personal information disclosed, some truth, some discombobulated truth, some is downright lies. I've had people trying to set me up so that they can replace me. I've had people, you know what I'm saying, stalking social media, stealing. I've had people coming for my love life. I've experienced all the same things without all the money, which I think is really quite crummy, you know, because they're experiencing those things, and they got all the money and security, at least, you know, that helps them on some level with all of that. I've definitely experienced, you know, being misquoted, being misunderstood, you know, being, you know, people attempted to bring me down, you name it, as a part of it. But I also know it comes with the territory. Which is why I never really got into attempting to find all of these people's various platforms so that I can, you know, infiltrate their stuff, because that's only going to be pulling me away from what I'm trying to do. Also, when I have heavier battles to deal with in terms of stuff to do with my health and well-being as a result to people that are not well coming for me and my son. So, you know, the focusing on those matters versus the gossip, you know, people, the humiliation rituals and and all of those things that they're doing. We ain't got no time for that. Could care less. People taking pictures of me illegally and videoing me illegally. You know, famous people go through that. They know that it comes with the territory. Even if they know that it's not supposed to be done, they know it comes with the territory. So we say we want to be rich and famous. You can't be thin-skinned. Then you can't be thin-skinned, and it'll serve to not have a hypocritical or double standard stance on things where you're willing to participate in all those types of things towards others that you yourself wouldn't want to experience, but expecting that you yourself shouldn't have to experience it. Also, old school, they used to call it the dirty dozens. And it's kind of like, once again, if you can't take the heat, get out the kitchen. So in other words, you say you like clowning, then you can't get sensitive when someone gets some clap back. And then want to, and I hate to say this, but toxic personalities and narcissist type, that's how they operate. They can clown from here to kingdom come and other people and feel valid doing it. But boy, I tell you, when people bring clap back towards them, you would think it was the end time apocalypse, the way they tantrum and how they get into trying to seek revenge. Well, Do you see what I'm saying? They want to seek revenge instead of, okay, you continue on doing what you do, and these persons will continue to do what they do. Because you didn't have a problem opening your mouth towards someone else in a foul way. So why is it that you have a problem with someone opening their mouth in a foul way towards you? The whole idea, the premise and foundations of, found it to be on like sociopath and narcissism and stuff like that is there's a disconnect. There's a lack of self-awareness. And a grandiose, I can do it, but no one else can do it to me. I can do this to whom I want to do it to, but no one can do it to me. No one should ever be allowed to. I can, depending on how I wake up and what side of the bed I get up in the morning and who I don't like this season. I can but nobody better not ever do it to me, because I am thus thou me. And I will sue them. And you see, it's like an oblivion. Very sensitive. They can ruin reputations, but nobody better ruin theirs. Do you see what I'm trying to say here? They could block someone's, success or opportunities, but nobody better not block theirs. They can do baneful work on people and people's children, but nobody better not do no baneful work on them and theirs. Do we see the hypocrisy? The double standard? They can lie, steal, cheat. They can bend rules, make concessions for themselves and their people, but nobody else better not bend these rules. And that applies to many of us who want to be rich and famous. And then we want to be copycats, and we want to copy and paste for some of us out there. Because we want what they have and beyond and more. But we can't take all of the heat that comes with all of that. We can't take clapbacks. We can't take the backlash. We can't take the scrutinies of our lives being fine-tooth combed every day by people who have no business being all up in our peripheral like that. We can't take people watching our every move. I've made jokes about how the stalkers are bothered about being watched. And I found that to be, is it a conundrum, an oxymoron? The watchers have a problem being watched. The spies have a problem with being spied on. I find that very interesting. People taking pictures of others illegally for nefarious reasons have a problem with being videotaped or pictures taken of them. It doesn't add up. Even if they say, well, I'm a private eye, I was hired to, it don't really matter. Because in most cases, people were hired, this was still illegal. So we say, we want to be rich and famous and well known. People to sing our praises, our name up in lights. Well, then we need to be able to take all of it. We need to understand what comes with it. And we also need to understand that if we ourselves are conducting in ways that's not too right, left, up, down, all around, that's toxic, nefarious, that's potential harmful, then the introspection, the ability to go within would give us the understanding and the nudge that, hey, then people could do this to me. I'm not above the law. I'm not above that. If I can do this to others, someone can do it to me. And if I'm feeling comfortable with doing it to others, I shouldn't have any problems and sudden uncomfortability when it's being done to me.